Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever it is for you. Welcome to this full moon in Taurus, plus a partial lunar eclipse, yeah, and Scorpio season and almost Samhain. So we've got a lot of uh, energies going on, probably all over the world. We'd love to know where you're from, where you're calling in from. So if you'd love to comment in the chat, go for it. And we're going to get started kind of as people do that.
I don't think I knew that it was in Taurus until you said that, and I feel like that makes a lot of sense now. Why Arrow has been acting like a feral beast all day.
I mean, there's always like a
More
good
than
reason
usual.
somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, feral beast. That's funny. Yeah, the eclipse energy has been a lot, I'm sure, for many of you, for
He
all of us.
hammer fist smashed the taco I made him for lunch, declaring it was disgusting. I'm a terrible mom who makes disgusting food.
You are. You should just get a shirt that
It's
says
true.
that. I am a terrible mother that makes disgusting food.
Disgusting food.
Mhm.
It's true. Oh, people from all over joining us.
There's someone in
Texas,
Sedona. How
Jersey.
fun.
Oh, yes. Near Seattle, Georgia, Louisiana, San Francisco, Rapid City. Had some gymnastics competitions there when I was a young child. Mexico, Alaska, London, Canada. So cool.
Yeah. So cool. I love it. Nice. Well, welcome again. If you're just hopping on, we have a nice group here on this Saturday. And I thought I'd pick a card from a new deck that I have, which I'm excited to share and I'm getting to know. But first, let's just like get in our own bodies. It's fine if you're busy or you can't turn your camera on. It's fine if you have kids around or you're driving, whatever. But if you can, just take a moment for yourself to like ground into your body. It really helps create this circle for virtual meetings. It feels less like we're all scattered around the world, which we are, but we can we can work with that. So you don't have to shut your eyes. I like to just be able to like feel what's going on for me. It's just witnessing. I'm not going to tell you how to breathe right now or talk you through anything. It's just noticing that you have a body and your body is whatever it's doing right now, sitting in a chair, holding a child, just noticing and feeling that. Sometimes when we have screens to look at, it's easy to just forget that we have a body. We just look at the screen and we kind of have our attention there. So it's just an invitation for you if you haven't done this yet today, just to say hello to yourself. You might notice you need something. If it's easy enough, go for it. Get a drink, use the bathroom. If you have other emotions arise or sensations that feel like a lot for right now, then just take note. Maybe you can give yourself 5 minutes at the end of the meeting before you go back to your life or family, just to take some time, especially with this eclipse and full moon. To stay grounded in ourselves is really the task. No use manifesting and creating from a place of non-groundedness. So feeling your feet on the floor, if that applies, feeling your butt on the chair, Just saying, I'm here. I'm here now. And now coming back to the meeting and maybe seeing things a different way, looking around at the faces if you want to, and just seeing how that makes you feel. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, right? So set your camera how you need to, turn off your camera if you want to, but just noticing the other friendly faces. I think everyone looks pretty friendly, whoever I can see here. Yeah. Hello. So nice to see you now that I've gotten in touch with myself. Okay, so this is a fun deck. It's new. It's the Mana cards. They share Hawaiian wisdom, so I'm learning a lot from these cards alone because they have a lot of teachings in this deck. So I won't pretend to be super familiar with them because I'm not, but I will choose one for us and I will briefly read the explanation. And then, as always, if that resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, leave it. Maybe it's not for you today. So I'm choosing a card just for this group with the intention of whatever teaching would be helpful for us today on a collective scale as we talk about what we're feeling new and excited about in birth work and maybe what needs to be left behind. That's a big thing, right? With the eclipses, what old stuff are we going to leave? So let's pick a card, not focusing on the old per se, but just to kind of center the meeting around. Oh, cool. I've gotten this one a lot. So it's the Aloha card. And yeah, you can see the images, flowers and bamboo. So I know aloha means love. I'm sure you all are familiar with aloha just being like the spirit of life here in Hawaii. So let's see, let's get to the teaching here. Those are sugar cane in the card. That's what you see there. I'm going to kind of summarize, obviously. So aloha means love. Hawaiian kahuna, which are the shaman here, were taught to live according to the secret meaning of aloha. And the A is for watchful alertness. The L is for working with unity. The O is for truthful honesty. The H is for humility. And the A is for patient perseverance. The secret meaning of aloha has much to teach about true love. Ala means awaken the path of light and stay awake. I'm gonna maybe butcher some of the Hawaiian, so just excuse me, but ho olohakahi means to bring about peace and agreement. And it goes on to talk about the truth of the soul. And the final word in the secret meaning of aloha is aho nui, which means great breath or patience. Be observant as you develop patience with yourself and others. Work towards harmony through understanding the nature of attachments. Aloha is an unselfish, nurturing love that radiates calmness, acceptance, and warmth. It is strong and tender, a great gift to the world and to whomever it touches. Allow the spirit of aloha to shine from your soul. So, yes, hello and goodbye, but obviously like a much deeper concept that, again, I am also immersed in and learning myself. So take it if you would like.
It's a good one.
That's a good one.
I feel like that word patience jumped out at me in relation to this topic that we're talking about because I feel like, you know, I was just thinking the other day, I guess I was talking to Amelia on the phone and she's going to be 21,
She
right?
is,
Next
yeah.
month. Yeah. Um so I was just saying, I think to her that she's going to be the same age that I was when I met you, which is like so weird. Like, where has the last however many years gone? Over a decade. And, like coming into this work and just like I've been reflecting a lot on like the way that I have matured since I was 21. So, like, in over the last 13 years. Um, so especially around like, yeah, what I want this to look like and how I approach it, because there was like a definite like fiery impatience, I think, at the beginning that now feels different and looks different, a lot different.
Mm,
What is this new paradigm birth thing?
right. What is it? It's a great question. I think focusing in on creativity is a good way to start as well. So I'd love to just know in the chat, like, what roles people are filling here. Like, are you a doula? Are you a midwife? Like, what is your role? And, if you don't fit into one of those boxes, no worries. Just trying to get a sense of where people are at. I think regardless, kind of as we get some sense of who's here, what is your creative dream in birth? I think so often we feel like we have to filter that, or it has to make sense in a way in our communities, or, oh, I'm just a doula, or, oh, I'm not this, so I can't do that, or I'm this, and or I'm not licensed. I mean, the excuses many of us have at various points are quite long. So, what is your dream for this world of birth, right? Like, we don't need to change birth as it physiologically exists for our bodies. I don't think there's nothing we really need to change there. I mean, there's improvements all of us like can make in our lives, but the process of birth works pretty well. But in your community, where do you see a place for your creative dream? Maybe that's the next step. But what is it? What do you dream about? I mean, do you dream about filling a certain role? Do you dream about, I don't know, having a birth center where people can come and be? Like, if it's not for our dreams, how does anything happen? We're always waiting for someone else to do it. And again, I think in birth, that's easy in a way because there's a lack of confidence sometimes for people. I was reading through some emails before this because I just recorded a podcast where I talked more about birth being a calling of the divine. And you can listen to the podcast later today or tomorrow when it comes out. But in reading the emails, just hearing from some of these women, how they do have this call, like they do have a creative dream, but they also just feel really small and like there's not a place for that, or people won't like them. So if it was as simple as having a dream, our world would be different. But starting with that, I thought would be fun. If people are into brainstorming or maybe doing your own writing down of things, I'm not sure how that would best look. I'm also just kind of seeing where people are at.
Mm-hmm.
Badass doula. I like that honesty. It's pretty good. Or no, badass. You're just a badass. You're not a badass doula. I agree. People considering a new career as a midwife, all kinds of, this is so cool. Look how many like different women are here in different paths and walks of life. That's so cool. Wanting to host community prenatals, former paramedic. Hello, Monica. So nice to have you here. Right. So look at this. Look how many talents and gifts and passions people have. Every single one of us, especially on any given day or month, will have different dreams, different ways to be creative. Awesome.
Yeah, so much variety. And yet, I think there's a definite thread that runs through all of it, of course. And so many common hangups, kind of as you've said. And I don't know if we're going to necessarily talk about that today, but I love hearing what people are imagining and envisioning. And I also really love hearing like how it feels, you know, um, because I think that's, I'm curious where our conversation will go today, but I feel like that might be a place that it does go. It's just like how it feels different for you and me now and like the direction it's kind of going in. It's also nice to see some of our students here. And someone asked up above if we could talk about the Doula Academy and maybe hear from someone who's in the Doula Academy at the end. So maybe we can leave the last 5 or 10 minutes or something for that. So if anyone's on here who wants to stay on and share your experience, that would be great.
So, what are you all wanting to create or grow? I'm so curious. And I know that feels maybe like a lot of pressure. You're like, oh my God, I just got on this Zoom meeting to hang out, and here you are trying to make me come up
Put
with
me on the
stuff.
spot.
So, yeah, I mean, you don't have to, nobody ever has to share if they don't want to. But the spark of creativity is the future of birth work. There has to be a spark of creativity. Like we could spend the whole meeting talking about how things aren't working, and we can spend time on that if people want to. I sent Margot an email this morning, and I talked about this on my podcast just a little bit at the end, so you'll hear it again. But from a midwife, and we get these all the time, from a midwife who has been doing this a while, and who is licensed and miserable. It's a really awful gig when you have to obey the state and you're constantly fined and you can't care for people. I mean, essentially it's the dark side of midwifery that we've spoken very openly about. So we can go down that path more if that's unfamiliar to people, but that's what needs to shift. And that doesn't just happen, with people saying, oh, wow, yeah, that sucks. Yeah, that sucks. It starts with some kind of creative force. And if you're not a midwife yet and that's your goal, having that sooner than later, because you have to feel it and see what you would like to see in the future. If your goal isn't to be a midwife that's controlled by the state, you have to have another idea. You have to have another like pull to something, because it's easy to get sucked into that. People will give you a million reasons why if you just became a CNM or you just got a paper or you just became a CPM, your life would be better or easier. But we're here to tell you that's actually not true. And what do you actually want? That would be my question. What do you want? What is your creative pull? Maybe it's really internal right now. Maybe you're growing a baby. Maybe that's where your creative force is going. So it doesn't always have to be reflected externally, but we need to have ideas and sparks to follow, or there's nowhere to really go. It's just we're going to keep going around the wheel of the culture that we're in. And again, it's not where I want to be. I'm working to be somewhere else, literally and metaphysically, I guess. Okay, let me read here. Wanting to make space for women to incorporate their culture and spirituality into the birth experience. That's beautiful. What a creative vision that is. Right. So you're going to, I'm sure, hear and read a lot that are like, oh, yes, like I feel that too. So make note that you're not alone. Creating a baby, best project, best project ever. And a cookbook with recipes for fertility. Amazing. Yeah, honesty, I love that. Involving children, kind of telling a different story. So, Jerry, I'm reading your comment about paramedic experience and sounds like there's a lot of, as you say, toxicity and fear. And those comments and stories are welcome, of course, because sometimes before we can really look ahead to what we want and what we're looking to create, we have to process, right? We have to sit in the past and figure out what we learned from those, bad or toxic experiences. That's part of the creative process as well, to kind of shed that and then move into, creative what's next.
There's so many cool responses to that question. I'm sort of surprised. Usually people are sort of like quiet on these calls.
Not this group.
That's great.
Thank you all. No,
Yeah.
I'm happy and grateful too that you are feeling connected, apparently, and inspired to respond to us here.
Yeah. I had comment I wanted to share, but I'm trying to find it from a Facebook group that just got my gears turning before the call, but I can't find it.
Well,
I'm gonna
take
look
your
for it though.
time. I'm reading more comments because this will be made into a recording where people can't read the comments. So, tending to my beloved's ancestral land to curate a retreat space for others to gather in their natural skills. So beautiful. And, that is birth. Birth is the earth, earth is birth. So anything we have to share that connects us to, source, is also relevant. Supporting other women in their pregnancy and through the fourth trimester. All aspects, body, mind, soul, practical and spiritual, space holder for the stories and experiences. Amazing. And I'm sure there's many more that you are all holding close to your heart, which is beautiful.
See Irene's comment on 57, exploring my options, starting late with a smiley face. We've had a number of women do our midwifery school later in life, and I think it's really cool actually when that happens. Just putting that out there.
Victoria says, creating a space for women using very real life wisdom combined with intuitive gifts that allows for healing during pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and motherhood. It's so beautiful. Yeah, it's so beautiful. It's like so humbling and such a good reminder when you get a group of women, right? Like 40 plus women here, and you see just how different but the same we are, right? Like we're all wanting the same thing. How do we go about it? But hearing these creative ideas and sparks, I think is so inspiring. I know it inspires me. I was thinking back on, when I got into birth work, and I didn't really consider it to be something creative. I had come from the music world, so I knew what art was. I mean, I was an artist essentially, but I didn't see birth work in the same way initially. It felt so different. But yet here I am years later, right? And I realize why those two things attracted me. Because you can be just as creative in birth as you are in any art. You can literally, just invent the way you want to serve. Then we get into the how and some of the blocks and all of that stuff as well. But I love to see all these ideas.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think that starting here and also coming back to it, like returning to it over and over and over again, like over many years, is so helpful just in that it like helps a lot of those how questions fall to the side, at least for the moment, and coming back to like, no, but how do I really want to do this? And how should I go about this? And um just to set those down. The comment that I was gonna share, I did find it from this group. It was like a whole giant thread about NARM. So if people don't know what NARM is, it's the North American Registry of Midwives, and they're the ones who credential and certify certified professional midwives. It was all about like people just not liking things about them. But anyways, just as a converse example of just like really limited thinking and lack of creativity, this one woman today said something like, let's see, the truth is to be respected as safe primary care providers of low risk clients, blah, blah, blah. We need credibility, which means we need a national credential like NARM. So it's like when we start skipping ahead to the how and like coming at it from these like fearful places and the logistics too soon or never, like maybe like that woman probably skipped all of this dreaming and just bought hook, line, and sinker into like, nope, this is the only way. Here's how you do it. The end. So when you skip this dreaming process, I think there's just that's where we see just getting in a rut collectively as midwives instead of seeing a variety of different ways of doing it happening and seeing individual midwives expressing their creativity and their um, unique like love for their communities, because it shouldn't look the same from one neighborhood to the next because every neighborhood is different. Like I live in a city with 3 million people. There should not be 100 midwives who are all the same. It should be all of us should be different. And so I think starting from that starting point as opposed to kind of skipping ahead to this like, well, here we go, um, is really important if we're going to see when we see, the change that we are hoping to see happen in midwifery.
Credibility. How does that feel for people when you think about being a midwife or in that role and having that be the most prominent concern that you have? Credibility. Wow. I agree, Victoria. It's a really external assessment, right? To be credible, you must have someone on the outside to assess and
A credit.
determine what that is. Um, yeah, midwifery has just really gone wrong when you think about it that way. And you think of all the midwives that are behind that in this weak way because they don't know what else to do. And all of you who are maybe not at that point, again, that's why I'm always like so excited about meeting people that aren't yet there, because it's like you are the ones with the power. You are the ones to choose that for yourself and realize where you're going with those choices. So if you're going to choose the credentialed path, credential will mean that you are part of this midwifery as credibility, right? Midwifery as a care provider, midwifery as a medical professional. And if you don't know, if you're new to these meetings, that is not how we see the midwife role. We are not medical professionals. We are not anyone's care provider. So it can get kind of mucky in there, but that's a huge choice that many people have to make. Is it a creative force? Is this your gift to the world and you're going to learn to be a damn good midwife? Or are you more concerned with the checks and the papers and, all of that credibility? Is that most important to you? I can't say. I'm sure for some people that feels right. Maybe being credible is the most important thing to them. That's just not how I feel.
Yeah, I feel like these are two really, really awesome comments over here. Honesty said, I don't know of an artist that would describe themselves as credible or even aspire to be credible. Totally.
Right.
And Caitlin said, variety and authenticity is paramount in creative process, and in medicinal arts, there are many remedies for a single ailment. Credibility is a limitation. Yeah, like flipping it on its head and just questioning the base assumption, right? Like, why would credibility be a good thing? Maybe it's actually inhibiting progress towards whatever our collective goal is.
What is the collective goal? I think it is safer to say that decades ago, perhaps it was credibility, right? Like in history, this is just what we were going to find, right? No matter what the issue is, it's like there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be like this side or this side before things get evened out. And like we're not evened out in midwifery at all because for so long, um, midwives were just kind of outside of the whole medical picture. And then they, got invited in or invited themselves in. And that's kind of where we are now. So midwives think credibility is a boon to midwifery, but they have forgotten that it has also killed true midwifery. And maybe some of them don't care. Maybe they don't, they don't have any regrets about that. They're happy to be able to accept their insurance claims and all the nonsense that goes with medical providers and credibility. I don't think the CPM is much different. I held that certification for, I don't know how many years, 13 years or something like that. And I finally gave it back last year on my birthday. And they didn't even notice. Like they're so disorganized, like they didn't even notice that I didn't renew. And it was very silly and confusing. And I mean, it wasn't confusing to me. I was very clear. I do not want to be a part of your organization. I will not support an organization any longer that limits choices for women. And also, in many cases, is more about this like politically correctness around birth and women that I just can't tolerate. So I get it. There are other reasons people think they have to do the CPM certification and the CPM process. Whether that's true or not, I think is debatable. But ultimately, I think people on that path, for the most part, are going to have to work really hard to remain creative and to still see midwifery as a creative path.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much to say about that particular credential and NARM in general. It's a clown show, is what it is. And not one that I felt like I wanted any piece of paper from. Although I waffled, like I went back and forth, and we've talked about this other places, so I won't say too much about it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it was really clear to me that I was, if I submitted the paperwork, if I did the test to become a CPM, that it was less about me needing, I don't know how to even describe it. Yeah, it was looking for external validation that I felt like would ultimately harm me in a way that I'd have to overcome then, if that makes sense. Like, okay, now they said I am, but the work was still that I needed to know that I was ready. You know what I mean? Like it was a band-aid covering a deeper problem, which was that I was still lacking confidence in my skills. And the universe very nicely gave me some opportunities to see my skill and to see my value so that I could get over that and make the final call to not do that path. I still have the folder though. I almost burned it in a bonfire when I moved last month. And part of me just wanted to keep it because it is a cool log of like, wow, look at all these births I went to. Like, look at all these prenatals I did, these postpartums I did. There was something there about like the experience, like that it was logged on paper, but yeah, that's all I'll say about that at the moment. Sorry.
Gina, I enjoyed your comments here. So I picked my midwife because she was traditional. She went to school but never filed for a license. But I was looking for someone not tied to the system, yet I still did value. She went to school, and that made me think she was more credible. Interesting reflection. To be more clear, I think that, yeah, it's this idea of external credibility. You know, for women in a community to kind of like vote a midwife in or out based on what they know and have experienced with her is just the ways of women, sort of for better or for worse, right? Like that's the way it works. I mean, and word of mouth is a great way usually to have a very busy life as a midwife. So I don't think, you know, it's a lack of understanding that this midwife has integrity and is, you know, qualified in whatever ways a woman decides she needs this midwife to be qualified. I think that's different for all of us. You know, if you've had a postpartum hemorrhage, for example, like you're going to seek out a midwife that you feel like understands that and maybe has experience or, you know, maybe helps you see it in a different way. So, what is credibility? It's whatever kind of we need to feel like we're making the right choice, but should it really come from a board outside of everybody? I mean, that's the danger in all of this is having like that third party, I think. The midwife and the family she's working with, that's the arrangement, that's the core of this relationship. So, what is this third thing, whether it's NARM or the state or whoever? How can we be creative when we also like have shackles on? It's not really possible in most cases. You're muted.
Oh Lord. There were kids begging me for Halloween candy, which I gave them. Um, I was just saying I wanted to jump back up to something Caitlin said up here, which is that credibility makes sense when the guidelines are helpful in creating better outcomes, but it's not the case in midwifery, sadly. And I just wanted to say, you know, I would argue that this is something that's incredibly hard to like definitively talk about, like, because what is a better outcome? And I think this is where there's a huge split in the world of midwifery or maternal health or fetal health, like what, you know, all of those arenas, because, you know, for the mainstream world, the only outcome that matters is living, you know, not dying. There's not a lot of there really aren't even a lot of studies that in I don't want to talk too much about studies, but like there haven't even been a ton of studies on outcomes and midwifery versus other types. And then how do we break that down to like, you know, stratifying all these different micro decisions that a midwife might make and that a mother might make, and then like somehow making an algorithm? Like it's not possible. But like the mainstream world likes to act like it is. So it's like, oh, let's only talk about, you know, better outcomes in terms of babies living, babies not having, you know, maybe XYZ kinds of outcomes, mothers having just like really, really super, you know, important things, but very limited scope of what is actually being looked at. And And even then, it's really hard research, I think, to do. Like, I'm somebody who took a graduate level stats class, and I would just say that all of it falls apart. You know what I mean? Like, every single study can be biased, every single study has holes in it. And there's, you know, I think this is true of everything, but since birth is the thing I care most about, um, I think this is a really clear example of like, we cannot make this a quantitative thing when we also are taking a spiritual angle at it, when we care about the quality of the experience and the quality of life for the mother, for the baby. We care about bonding, we care about empowerment, we care about autonomy. Like, those things can't really be measured. Um, and then there's this, it really boils down to this argument about like what is the best outcome, and to me the best outcome is when people are respected on their life path and in their autonomy, both the mother and the midwife. And from there, like, the rest is kind of less important to me. The amount of milliliter, cc's of blood she lost, is less important to me than, how did she feel during the experience, and how is this going to impact her for the rest of her life going forward, and then how is that going to impact her community and this baby and their life. But these bigger questions that like you can't boil down in a lab. So that was my TED talk. Hmm.
So it's a great time to just reflect on these things. If you wrote stuff down as far as your creative ideas or places you're being pulled, I think that's great. And if you didn't write them down, maybe you want to later and just have them to reflect back on as you're going on this path, because I think we can be our own reminders sometimes that we are in this for the right reasons, and we are following our souls, especially at the moments when it doesn't feel that way or it is hard. That said, we can talk about the doula program. And in general, if you're new here, the Doula Academy and Indie Birth Midwifery School, obviously we integrate these beliefs and these practices within our programs, meaning that there isn't one right way for everybody. So we get that question a lot too. If I want to become a CPM, can I still do your school, kind of thing? And it's like, you can do whatever you want. I think the best way our school can be utilized and our doula program is not just for information and growth and education, but in this like self-searching. So we do a lot of that. Our students, which I see many of them here, they do a lot of that. They spend a lot of time figuring these things out, being creative, and then reflecting on their fears and how that's holding them back. So these practices are a part of the teachings that we offer. They are not really separate. They all go together. What use is learning all this stuff about birth if you don't have the tools to figure out who you are and where you're going? Because every single one of you here will do something slightly different, even if you're all midwives at the end of the day. So Margot's posted some links there for the school, for the Doula Academy. We also have, I see you posted the link for the Mothering the Mother, which is a postpartum doula training we have online. I'm going to do a postpartum, like art of the sacred postpartum training here on Oahu in February. So I have no idea where that link is right now. You can always email me though. And we're going to be doing like hands-on learning and sharing of wisdom around the postpartum time, so that you can hopefully go back to your communities and just start doing that. I think that's one of the simplest, easiest, most soul fulfilling off call job you could do in birth that is really, really needed in the world. So I am super excited to be seeing some of you here in February for that weekend. And lastly, if you are a midwife or a student midwife that's in the advanced stages of perhaps an apprenticeship, our midwifery magic program starts in just a couple of days, November 1st. And you can learn more about that, but that's essentially a 12-week mentorship program with Margot and I. But you also get lifetime access, if that makes sense. So there's a ton of material. Margot and I both share with you our own ways of how we add magic to this role for ourselves, what we've come up with over our years of doing this. And hopefully the midwives that participate in that with us are the ones that really want to do what we're doing here today, like on a level of a smaller group and with us individually. Adding magic to your midwifery practice is this creative process. And again, we see that so many midwives have lost that over the years. It's not that they aren't creative people. It's not that they aren't beautiful, wonderful people, but they have lost it because of all the reasons we've talked about, whether that's a license or being burnt out or, the sister wound, being hated by other midwives in their community. There's a million reasons why you can lose the creative spark. I've been there, it comes and goes for all of us, but that will be a really fun program for those midwives. And again, maybe advanced student midwives that really want a head start on how to create create the role, create this practice that really feels like it's coming from you, coming from your soul. We're not going to teach you how to be me or Margot. We're going to support you in realizing who you are for you, which is such a gift you can give to the world.
We would love if you have questions about any of those things we've posted, and I couldn't find the link for the postpartum in-person thing, Erin. I don't know what the link is for that. If you have it, Sam, and want to post it, that'd be great. But if you have any questions about any of these programs or offerings, you can totally pop them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask. We would love to. Thank you, Sam. We would love to answer those. And then maybe while people are thinking about that and maybe typing in a question or thinking about what they want to ask when they unmute themselves, do we have any Doula Academy alumni or students who want to say a little bit about the program and their experience? Or let's see, who asked us at the very beginning? Caitlin. Caitlin asked if anyone could speak to the doula training, or if we could speak to the doula training, or if anyone could share their experience. So if anyone is in here, I feel like there are a few.
There are also a lot of great testimonials on our YouTube channel, Caitlin. So just head over to Indie Birth and you can watch some of the doula testimonials. What weekend in February is the postpartum class? It's on the new moon, so let me check. February 9th and 10th.
Do you see Doula Academy students in here, but I think they're busy cooking dinner or chasing children.
All right. I don't know. That feels like a natural ending to me. I know we're a little bit before the hour, so if people...
Well, we did just have someone write in. We wanted to. So Sarah said, I am in the Doula Academy right now, and I absolutely love it. So much personal growth, and with that has come some in-person clients that are so aligned. Irene asked, are these all online classes? Where are you located? Yes, everything we do is online unless specified otherwise. But yes, our doula training is online. Our postpartum doula training is all online. Our midwifery school, all online. The link for the Mothering the Mother in-person retreat, that's the only one that is an in-person thing that we talked about tonight. We do have weekly student calls, like student coaching calls for both the doula and the midwifery school students. So this happens every week, and there are, you know, really great opportunities to connect with us and our team and really cool other midwives and practitioners and your fellow students. So it's not like a in-person, we sit together in a classroom feeling necessarily, but it's pretty darn close. I think a lot of our students have become very dear, close, lifelong friends as a result of being in our program. So Sarah said student calls are so beneficial. Yes, weekly check-in calls are helpful. We have a lot of accountability built into both programs. They are not necessarily self-paced. We send you reminders about where you should be at in the courses. You get your in the midwifery school, you get them on an actual schedule, but you do get lifetime access. That said, we are pretty, I think, good about keeping people on task so that you finish in a reasonable time, because that's our goal. Heather said, I am in the academy too, and it's incredible. I can pop in and share on video if there's time. Otherwise, feel free to email me. I feel like there's time, Heather, if you want to unmute and say anything else. Probably would be helpful for people to see a real person's face and thoughts, hear their thoughts.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm about halfway through the doula program right now, and there's just like such a wealth of content that I'm really enjoying. And I would say the most amazing like thread that's run through the whole thing for me is just how the entire program is really built to empower you to, again, like you all have been speaking to already, to help you to figure out who you are as a doula, but also to, really just be the support person that's going to empower the birthing woman, that's there to really hold them up and remind them always that they have choices, that it's always their choice. That's something that was in my own birth, that was the people that were at my birth really just blew me away. Like how, these people that showed up for me just kept reminding me of my own power. And so I really appreciate that indie birth, that's such like a tenet of what you teach. Yeah, so if anyone has any specific questions, I'm happy to answer, but I'm just I'm so happy with the program and the education so far, and the support, and also the weekly calls, and the ones I've been able to make it to. It's been pretty amazing. Got a little baby hand here.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Yeah, absolutely.
That seems like a great place to end. What do you think, Maren?
Yeah, thank you, Heather. So beautiful. Sure, let's go on our happy new or full moon, not new moon, full moon ways. If anybody wants to chat, like type a chat in the box before we go. I'd love to hear just what you're leaving with today. What feels like something you've taken away from this chat. It can be anything at all, but it helps us also structure what we talk about and that kind of thing. And it's just nice to share sometimes with the group that maybe a light bulb went off, or maybe you had an idea. Love to hear them. So let's take our last minute and do that if you want to. Kind of imagine closing our full moon circle here. I know it's like dinner time or later for many of you, so you'll be off to the next phase. I know for me, it's always so great to see you all on these calls and to hear a little bit about where some of you are at, even if I don't know you. It reminds me that there's so much value in what we all offer. So, yes to training, yes to education, but all of you inherently have so many gifts. And I feel like with women in birth work, that's so much of the obstacles that present sometimes, right? It's not that we can't do the training or learn the thing. It's like we have to realize that we are inherently valuable as well. So all of the ideas you've shared today, like from postpartum care, to prenatal circles, they're all such great ideas, and I would not forget them. Write them down and make sure you look at them from time to time. And thank you all for the reflections today. We wish you a beautiful week and month, and we'll see you back here at the next full moon. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.